Hi everybody and welcome to Talking Teal episode 9. We are up and we are cold. Sorry, I don't mean to rub it in.
It's beautiful here. It really is. I'm Mimi Torchin.
I'm Liron Cohen and I'm cold.
And the reason that I didn't want to get up this morning wasn't just that I didn't want to get up, which I never do. It was because I had Louise on my lap, which I very seldom do. Wait, let me tell the story.
Sorry, I ruined the ending.
And then Missy, who does often lie on me, came and lay on my legs, and I had the beloved cat train. And that happens so seldom that I just wanted to stay in bed with my babies on my lap.
Yeah.
And
totally understandable.
But here I am, all for you.
And also Missy stayed upstairs on the bed. I'm sorry, Lori. Missy will probably not make an appearance, but we're hoping Louise might.
And Robert loves to see Missy.
Everybody loves to see our kitty cats. Okay, so we have episode 9 to talk about, but before we get to episode 9, I just want to throw it out there. Details, you mean pencils? You know what? For the wrap-up party, I want to have a box of pencils here.
So let's not tell all of our things.
Well,
I'm not throwing pencils at my camera.
So we are going to make a formal announcement later, but the following Sunday, after we do the finale episode, which is I think the finale of the season broadcasts around, I think it's the 26th, and then the Sunday after, which I think is the 31st, we're going to have our last Talking Teal, which is going to be the same as always. You send us emails, we discuss the episode at length, in depth, we analyze it with your emails. And then the following Sunday, which I believe is the 7th, but again, official announcement will come later, we want to do a wrap-up party to wrap up the season, to wrap up Talking Teal for the season. And we want it to be, again, with your involvement, but even bigger now.
Bigger involvement.
So if all this time you've been sending us emails, this time we want to put it out there. Don't do anything yet, but start getting your creative juices going and think about it. Think about what you want to do. You could either send us an audio message. You can send us a video, a picture of yourself dressed as your favorite character.
You mean wearing teal?
Wearing teal, wearing white jackets, wearing whatever, think about it. Maybe reenact your favorite scene with yourself only, or yourself and a friend.
I like that idea of acting with yourself.
You could enact a scene by yourself if you're all by yourself. If it's a monologue.
Oh, a monologue, yeah.
If you're floating in water somewhere and seeing Debbie on the other side, and or if you want to be Bridget, or if you want to be, that's for two people, obviously.
Well,
if you want to
do this thing.
And send us your poems, your memes, your collages, whatever you want to send us. That would tell us what Wentworth means to you, what Talking Teal has meant to you, what interacting with all the fans in this way has meant to you. What it's been like for you this season.
Not too long.
Not too long,
because we don't want it to be a 14-hour show.
Not too long, but we want all of you to send stuff. Even if you haven't sent anything before, we want you to send something. If you've been enjoying this, if this meant anything to you, let us know. Makes us happy.
Well, we know it means something.
And then the wrap-up party will be all the better, because it will involve so many of you in a much more interactive and live way.
BYOB.
So
bring your own beverages.
Start thinking about it, and you don't have to do anything yet, because obviously you might come up with more ideas by the end of the season. But start thinking. Okay, episode 9. I think everybody was very emotional at the end of this episode, and so many of you said, I was high, I was low, I was high, I was low, I was angry, I was happy, I was heartbroken, I was so many things, which is something Wentworth does very well.
Very well. Your emotions, they ping-pong your emotions.
Well, and especially after episode 8 was so intense. And I was wondering what they were going to, how do you come out of that? What do you do? And I think it was very wise to let Michael Lucas do write both episodes, so there was very much a continuity.
It's very smart of them. They do it on all of their shows,
No,
right?
that's directors, but not writers.
Right.
The directors direct 2 episodes at a time, but the writers change and don't do it necessarily consecutive ones. But it was very smart to let Michael Lucas do both, and this way it really felt tight.
Of a piece, yes.
Yeah. And by the way, I know that you were all crying out for Bridget, and you didn't get it this episode, but I just want to put it out there that Michael Lucas did say that he would be happy to see a whole episode of just Bridget and Frankie kissing and looking soulful.
No, I don't think you're going to get a whole
No,
episode.
he actually said that's not going to happen, but even I would like it to happen. I said maybe a Christmas special, maybe
Frankie and
something.
Bridget at home.
Have
In front of the Yule log.
Yes, because it's so cold at Christmas.
Exactly. Well, a Yule log is a fake thing you see on TV.
Oh, I see.
No, I think there is a Yule log, but mostly that's how we know it now. It's something you watch on TV. At least in Texas, we only saw it on TV.
Right, because having Christmas in Texas is kind of like
Almost like
Christmas
having
in
it
Australia.
in Australia. Not quite, but almost.
Okay.
Without the spiders under the toilet seat.
The spiders under the toilet seat. Australia, we really want to come to visit you, but we don't know what to do about the spiders under the toilet seat. Lauren, you've ruined our trip to Australia.
We have to just go to Sydney, I guess, where there are no... My friend Carmen Duncan has assured me there are no spiders under the toilet seat.
If you live in Australia and you don't have spiders under the toilet seat,
please let us know where.
Please, exactly.
We're coming to see you.
Okay, let's start at the very beginning. I hear it's a very good place to start.
All right.
So, the scene with B, floating in the water, seeing Debbie on the other side. But
it was so effective.
It was so beautiful. But you know what, to me, what was even better? And I know that's going to be weird for everybody, but when she wakes up, what I love about it, just in terms of the filmmaking, the fact that she wakes up and we see flashes of things that we saw in the previous episode now through her eyes. Joan screaming in her arm, the burned arm, and
she went from that total serenity and joy of feeling liberated. I'm
like,
sure.
Why the fuck did you resuscitate
and going to
me?
her daughter into absolute total chaos.
I just love the shifts of point of view. It's like showing us again what we saw in the previous episode, but now through her eyes. Yeah. It was just so brilliant to me. And again,
it was perfect. It really was. It was gorgeous.
The moods. And it always makes me happy when they shoot outside the prison. So I don't think we ever saw Wentworth at the beach.
Even if it was in Bee's mind.
Yeah, Wentworth at the beach. That
or
could
Bee's,
be, like Orange is the New Black when they went to the lake.
Except they got some horrible
Let's do a day trip.
disease.
Let's do day trip. Wentworth day trip. So that was a beautiful way to open the episode. There were
It was beautiful and it was striking.
Yeah. There are two things that were, and Debbie got to do 2 seconds or something.
Debbie got to pay towards her health insurance.
I don't know that.
Her union,
that's how it works
in Australia, in America it does.
So your emails, there were two things that were very clear in all of your emails. One thing is you hate Kaz now. Kaz has done some questionable things. She's done some terrible things, but there is one thing that she did that you could never forgive her for. She messed with your lesbian bliss. She tore Bally up, and you can't.
Yes,
forgive
it
that.
was all her fault. I mean, certainly B had every right not to. B could have been a little more open-minded to Allie. Allie seemed extremely sincere when she said it wasn't her. But on the other hand, B had a lot of things, and Allie that made her question it. She wasn't there to help her. She set her in her mind. She set her up because it was their place.
Speaking of, she wasn't there to help her. Actually, I wanted to just point out something that kind of bothered me when Vera and Bridget take B to the equipment room or the kitchen to try to jog her memory up. In the background, when kind of seeing that she does remember a little bit, like snippets of things, we hear Allie scream.
Right, so she remembered that.
Right, so if you hear Allie scream, it didn't sound like a scream of, yay, she's drowning. No. It sounded like a, no, ma,
Help her, right,
so
exactly.
That was
I hadn't noticed that. That's very good.
That was kind of,
But Kaz put the last nail in the coffin anyway by saying that she let her prostitute herself by pretending to be in love with B.
And you all have very different theories and explanations to what went on, but in regards to Kaz doing that, I personally think...
We both do.
Yeah, we discussed this, and though you kept saying, is she jealous? Is she angry? First of all, I think she does. She is jealous. I think
she has a very special relationship with Kaz, with Allie. I don't think that she's in love with her. I think it's more a motherly feeling. But she does feel proprietary towards her.
Yeah.
She's hers. In whatever way that may be in her mind, Allie is her person among the group.
Well, when we think, and that's
But it
actually
didn't have to
another
do
good
with
point.
Allie, really, at
Well,
this point.
Well, and the thing about Kaz and her crew, I feel that it's because of her history with her family. This is like her new family, and so this was a betrayal on the level of a family betrayal again, which she's had in her life. But especially with the word choice that B, you're just a little girl trying to save the world. You're useless. To me, that immediately would trigger Kaz's traumas with her mother and her father. And if you look at her face, she came all ready to apologize and make it up to her.
Tears in her eyes.
Tears in her eyes. She was so emotional, and then she just beat
which is B's total way of dealing with Kaz, which is something I've never quite agreed with all the way through.
Especially the first time, because the first time she it wasn't justified at all. In season 3, when Kaz tried to help her, and she was like, "I don't need you. I mean, I just used you, and I'm going to throw you away like a used Kleenex."
She really, really treats Kaz badly, almost to the point where it's like she wants to make her angry with her. I don't understand.
Which is wrong, because B is smart, and she should know that Kaz is a very emotional person, and she was
a good
there.
Ally.
She was ready to be, she was all there ready to be her ally, and she made her into a worse enemy, which I think is not only a mistake, but kind of, I have credibility issues with that,
right.
Because it would have been great for her to have Kaz as her ally. Kaz is, again, Red B was her idol, so she
Red's right hand.
Right. She was really her hero, and we know how it works when somebody really idolizes somebody and is obsessed with them so much. Then the betrayal just turns them all the way to the other end. Yep. It's so extreme. Yeah, the hate is as intense as the love was. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually not surprised that she did that, and I don't think she went in there wanting to do it or planning to do it at all. I think she just did it because of that. So Pacey, a first-time writer, and I don't know, Pacey, if you're a boy or a girl, so I'm sorry, I'm not sure if that's.
We loved you in Dawson's Creek, though. I wanted to tell you that.
Mimi especially, and then on Fringe and stuff. Yeah. So Pacey wrote on Sunday before the episode aired, and he or she, please let us know, Pacey, predicted that Allie will relapse, which she did, and which I think we all kind of expected, because that's what happens usually on television with former addicts. That's the
they
first thing,
always relapse.
That's the first thing they
which
go
is sad. It doesn't give much hope to people who are trying to get and stay clean, I'll tell you.
But if there was any place or reason to get in drugs, I would think it's in prison, and after
especially
something
after
like that
something
happened.
like this. Yes. I mean, I think that if B hadn't rejected her, she wouldn't have.
No, and as she told Bridget originally, that B was her reason to stay sober, which is probably not the best.
Yes, you should always do it for yourself.
But you know how many people do it for other people?
Most people.
Yeah. So Doris calls Jake the Cupcake Snake, but mostly people call Jake the Snake.
Which was my name.
Or
I'm sure it would have been your name without me.
A couple of you call him Jake the Fake.
That's
excellent. I think one person, was it Anastasia? One person calls him Drake, like a male duck.
A duck.
I like ducks. Okay, Anne-Laure brings up the second issue that you were all very much in agreement about. I'm sorry, Mimi. Branky.
I hate Branky. Can't we just call them B and
Frankie?
B and Frankie.
Yes.
Frankie. They're not a couple.
They're very good friends.
And I don't even like it with couples, but they're just friends.
Anyway, this is one of Mimi's pet peeves. Yes. But anyway, you all went bananas over that scene.
It was great.
You wrote pages and pages and pages on the smile in Frankie's eyes, and on the hug, and on the vending machine. And you just couldn't get enough of it. And it's true, it was
that moment,
such a moment.
When she didn't know what to expect, who was there to see her, and she sees...
It was kind of like a romantic movie, wasn't it? When
it was like
their eyes meet, and the slow motion, and the light.
They run to each other, but they didn't do that. But
they could have.
It was. You felt the sort of burst of joy she felt
to me,
when she saw Frankie, and that smile that Frankie had. I mean, to me, that was Nicole at her best. Yeah. That's Frankie when you just love her the most, when she's teasing and she's
fingers,
she's a friend,
tongue,
she's funny, was bringing her out of herself, and
a little bit of a
you
Frankie
could
replacement.
see her kind of waking up, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And she does get her mojo back after that.
It was very brilliant of Bridget.
To me, the scene starts with Bridget saying, "You have a visitor, and it's mandatory. It's not voluntary.
Not negotiable.
It's not optional. Something like that."
Right.
That was already the beginning of the most beautiful scene, of course, in that episode, but one of the most beautiful scenes in the whole season. And their whole exchange, a little bit of a Frankie replacement, and what base did you get to?
They should have been playing "You've Got a Friend" in the background.
Carol
King singing "You've Got a Friend."
Oh, thank you for being a friend.
No. They're not Golden Girls yet.
Yet. If B stays in prison that her entire life, they could do that. They could do that version. And Laura asks, she asks, why were there no cameras in the kitchen? Because a lot of you are saying, really, who even doubts who did that to B? So first of all, we did see Joan
move the camera.
Move the camera.
This is like this is like a 1950s surveillance system.
Yeah, they put tiny little cameras and pins and
exactly.
in
they can have hidden cameras places.
I think we've seen people do that a little too often. I think it's time to upgrade Wentworth security.
But it's a device. You have to be able to get away with what you're going to get away with and not get caught. So they have to have those stupid giant cameras that all you have to do is hit it with a broom.
It's a device, but it's always it's a fine line to walk to have a device to and we've been talking about it a lot this season because it's been done too much. This cutting corners and taking shortcuts and making things convenient, and I think 99% of this season was to accommodate Joan in prison.
Ferguson.
So that's been really the main issue. Otherwise, everything's been great, but that has been the main issue. There have been so many credibility issues around Joan being in there and getting away with everything.
Exactly. And in the first place, even without the things that she's gotten away with because of convenience. Someone should be on her ass every second. She should not be allowed to wander around free.
And now
they should have an eyeball on her at all times until they're locked until sleeping time.
Well, and now also you are questioning, why is Kaz covering up for her? Why isn't Allie telling the truth? Why isn't B telling the truth? Because B knows what happened, even if she doesn't remember
it exactly.
And they obviously want to try to jog her memory. So if she said, "Yes, I remember, Ferguson did it to me," they would take her word for it. But, I guess
it's the prison credo, the prison code.
Right. And as Sarah said, she thinks that the whole don't press the panic button, the entire season was kind of to drill it into us that you do not involve the screws no matter what. So we see now that B does want to take Ferguson down. She just wants to do it her own way. And that's why she calls Frankie and tries to move the wheels
this sort of gives the whiny Doreen and Liz's questioning too a little bit more reason to question, why do we take these things as face value just because they're sort of an unspoken rule, but it's a spoken rule. But because actually these women deserve to have protection and they need protection from above. You can't always deal with it yourselves.
Again, it's so funny to me because I keep thinking about Orange is the New Black and how they go, to the screws all the time.
Mr. Caputo, Mr. Caputo is like their mother confessor. Yeah. They go and father confessor. It's such a different code. I think it's more like the men's code. This prison.
The Wentworth. Mm-hmm. Well, it's much more hardcore. Mm-hmm. And Laura also says that she doesn't understand why Kaz would do this to Will because he keeps trying to help her.
Yeah, he's one of the good guys.
But to her defense, Kaz didn't hit him over the head. That other girl who is never says a word almost, but keeps doing weird things. So I guess Kaz decided, well, it's already too late. He's been beaten over the head, and he's not going to just let it slide, so we might as well take advantage of that.
Exactly, and in fact, she might have decided to do that in order to make sure that he didn't send them to the slot or give them more time on their sentences for hitting him over the head with something.
Right, and now she has something over him. They're going to, as she said, if he manages to keep his job for the next 12 years, then they're going to spend a lot of time together, and now she has something that she can, have hanging over his head. But of course, now when it falls into the wrong hands,
Jake the snake,
or the
cupcake
now
snake.
knows about it.
He is cute.
Also, Anne Lore says, speaking of Ferguson,
But I'm very, this. We did talk about the fact that the girl hit her over the head, but really, I do think now that was exactly why she did it. It was a thing of opportunity, and she did it to protect them in the moment, and then realized it was something that she could use for her whole stay in prison.
Possibly, yeah.
I don't think it was at all.
He did take
planned.
her into, what was it, the boiler room or something. She seems to trigger a lot of. She seems to press a lot of buttons for him, and especially with Vera having his hands tied, he keeps running around doing things that are really not that well thought out.
Vera should pay more attention to him, though. I mean, he shouldn't keep doing things that she tells him not to do. She is the governor.
Though it's a little hard for him probably to see her that way,
yes.
seeing that they were equals.
But I think also B should let him do some of these things.
Vera,
my God, my names are just. Vera should let him. She should pay more attention to the things that he...
Instead of paying more attention to Jake.
To Jake, exactly. But we know why she pays attention to Jake. Because he tickles her fancy.
But Will this season, poor guy, he just can't do anything right. He's like everybody's punching bag. He keeps getting, including physically.
Trying to do the right thing, he keeps getting screwed.
And I think that nobody really has managed to figure out that Kaz is very emotionally volatile and should be treated very, very delicately.
Yes, because she definitely is like a ping pong ball. You hit her with this emotion, and she goes over there.
Lori actually had something very interesting to say about that, and
she did.
We'll get to that. But I just think that no matter what her reasoning is, I think everybody, specifically B and Vera, should have figured it out. Joan figured it out really easily.
Yes, but Joan is really smart.
Speaking of Joan, Anne Lore asks, why should Ferguson get any visitors at all? Why is she getting,
Exactly. But,
as Vera said, she only has 1 week to her trial, and she does keep trying to prove that everybody's in a conspiracy against her. So she doesn't want to prevent her any of her civil rights.
But a normal, regular prisoner would never, after that kind of
they don't know what happened.
They know that she had something to do with it.
Maybe she was just an innocent dupe. Who got her arm hurt.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Camille says, Vera, get control. How in the world would you let Kaz bring B her lunch? Sorry, I want my show to be perfect. I absolutely agree. Several of you have said this. There are plenty of people working in the kitchen. Who in the world thought that Kaz going to give B her lunch was a good idea after what had happened? Again, too many corners cut, too many things that should have...
That are convenient to tell the story, but
don't make sense.
Aren't realistic, right?
Yeah, we agree. Camille says that she thinks Vera is going to kill the freak. So...
I would like to see that.
I love
Pamela Raven. All you freak fans, I'm sorry, but I'm really sick of what she gets away with, her manipulation. She's behind every bad thing that happens in this prison. And if someone has to go, I think it should be Joan.
I don't think it's going to happen.
No,
but I would love it if we... Okay, so there are two options. Vera does it. She gets caught. She becomes an inmate at Wentworth as well.
Or she does it and becomes a hero.
That. I think we've seen that before.
Yes, we've seen that story.
Or Vera takes every tool that she picked up along the way, learned from Joan, kills Joan, and manages to get away with it. Now that I would like to see.
That would be the interesting story.
And it will be interesting also if it becomes evident that the entire season she's been working on it slowly, not showing it to anybody, not showing it even to us, but she's been working on towards that.
That would make me happy.
Yeah, but I have to tell you, I don't think it's going to happen. Nina says that finally, at least in the scene between Ferguson and Gianna's son, finally Joni's speaking in a normal voice and not whispering. And this is Mimi's pet peeve.
Another one of my pet peeves, the whisper talkers. Kiefer Sutherland whispered through the entire 24 series. When he'd shout like this. The whisper talkers drive me crazy. Just speak, unless you have to whisper something. Then you can whisper. Okay, I'm done.
Nina also says that she thinks Sonia seems very certain she will go free, and fuck, I believe she's right. Well, I sure hope she doesn't go free
No,
because I want her in.
I want her
love
in
her too
prison.
much.
She's one of my favorite characters. She is so funny. She's so sly. She just, and it's interesting, nobody has anything in for her.
No.
She just goes about her business in a very
I
smart
think
way.
she entertains everybody.
Yes, she does. But I think that if she ended up in prison, it would be different.
Yeah, right now I think as long as she thinks she's just there for a little while until she proves she's innocent, you know, she already is making
She can
plans.
be everybody's friend.
She's already making plans to buy Maxine new
breasts
boobs.
for Max. Yeah.
And one of my favorite things was seeing Liz teaching Sonia to knit in prison. It's just so, again, this
The
is...
scenes with her just take you out of the misery of prison.
There are thinkers and there are doers.
Suzanne. You
are
are
a doer. No, I don't think
doer.
it's a thinker.
You are.
You are a doer.
Does that mean I don't think?
No, I'm a doer. But that's another opportunity for her to say, my husband was a thinker. Or later she tells Liz, you know, Helen, my friend, used to suffer from depression. I do hope that didn't, you know, bring her down. That wasn't the reason.
Yes.
Yeah. So Sonia, in her all like, you know, she drops little things for people to nibble on it, for us to nibble on it.
Very tantalizingly, I have
and
to
that
say.
scene between her and Liz, with her saying, you know, Liz, you do defend me quite a bit. And you do ask a lot of questions.
All of a sudden you could see
and
the
Liz's
light.
face, well, I guess I'm a little starstruck by you. I get that a lot. I get that a lot. And in her face, she manages to be smiling, and yet, oh my God! And then there was kind of a horror music in the background, like very ominous.
Listen, Liz needs to tread very lightly because Sonia is probably the smartest person in the prison.
I hope that made her.
She's done a double murder, I'm sure. And,
at least.
At least. And she does it with a smile. And I really worry for Liz. I really do. I think that there's going to be a bad outcome from her.
I certainly hope.
Lagging.
I certainly hope that scene made her realize that and back up, because she's been way too pushy. And as some of you pointed out, you know, the detective told you the key is to leave silences so that she would fill them. Don't go and, so how did this happen? And how did that happen? And what happened with this? Stop it. You're being obvious. But, you know, again, Liz is not perhaps the perfect choice for this.
And she's not stupid. She's just not conniving.
She's not. Yeah, she's naive.
She's open.
Yeah,
and
she's not there for double murder. Let's just put it that way. She's there because she was a drunk and she ran over her
horrible mother-in-law. I'm sure it
Um,
was a subliminal thing that she wanted to do.
You mean it was Freudian?
I don't know about Freudian, but it was definitely something she wanted to do inside.
Okay, Sarah, who writes such beautiful things, and we can't talk about everything, but thank God for Boomer. I would have had several heart attacks from the tension and stress this season were it not for the blessed Boomer scenes. For a moment, I can breathe and smile and think about puppies before we go back and into the thick of it all. That Boomer kissing Maxine's knee, I want to know who decided that she should do that.
Whose idea was that? It was so out of nowhere. I mean, so
cute.
Sweet.
Oh, yes, I'm ready. Oh, God, I'm ready. She's so wonderful. And again, who would have thought 3 seasons ago that Boomer would end up being the comic relief and the heart and the joy and the
because you can still
laughter.
see the enforcer in her when her
Oh
eye.
yeah, she wanted to bash everybody. But even when she did that, I want to. Yeah, we should wait for a plan, but just in the meantime, bash him. So perfect. And as Heather pointed out, Liz tells Boomer, now we have to wait. We have to wait till B comes out and know what the plan is. Yes. Boomer, remember, you're a doer, not a thinker. So, Sarah's new theory, so Jay goes, and he's now in charge of the freak, and in their interaction, it doesn't really appear as if they've known each other from before. It doesn't appear, because we've all...
Even in their private moments.
Right. So you've all assumed in the past that Jake was working with Ferguson or for Ferguson, so now we're kind of, I think, moving away from that theory. Mm-hmm. So Sarah says that her new theory is that Jake is working for Channing and that he's there to get dirt on Joan and ultimately replace Vera as governor.
But I don't think that's Channing's. I don't think Channing cares about replacing Vera.
Well, no, maybe that was the trade-off. Maybe if you get me dirt on Joan, then I'll give you the governorship.
Right.
That could be.
But even getting dirt on Joan still has the ammunition against Janine. So I don't see what good.
But by the end, at the beginning, he told her, "I took care of it. You don't have anything on me anymore." And then I think he said to Vera to put her in Gen Pop just because he was tired of her and wanted her dead, not because she actually had anything on him anymore. Many of you are worried about Frankie because Frankie's now helping B. We're not sure exactly how she's going to help her, but we know that B wants her to reach out possibly to Gianna's son because he was in juvie and maybe he knows somebody at Walford who could hurt Jesper, and we know that Joan wants to possibly use him to get to Jesper. So Frankie is now trying to help B. Will that mean...
But how is Frankie trying to help B?
Well, we'll
keep
find
Joan
out.
from getting to Jasper?
Or talk to Gianna's son and intervene and tell him the truth about the freak. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But now we're worried. Is that going to make Frankie a target for Ferguson? Is she not going to try to eliminate her as well? B, is Frankie going to do something illegal that will get her back in jail? Because I don't think any of us actually want to see that.
I do not want to see Frankie in jail for so many reasons. First of all, I don't want to see her in jail. Secondly, if Frankie can't make it on the outside with all the tools she has, she's not a born killer, even though prison.
And she's even
prison hurt her.
She's got her
job.
Degree.
She's got her degree. She's getting herself going.
Do we know that she has a job? We know that she went to look for a job. Do we know that she has a job?
I don't know if she has one for sure, but she
Well, she sounded like she was getting on. The thing is, the problem is we don't know if Frankie has a job. And why don't we know if Frankie has a job? Because we haven't seen any of her life on the outside.
That's
we don't know any of her challenges. We haven't seen any of her and Bridget, which means also if she goes back to prison, yes, we might get some tantalizing forbidden relationship scenes, but we're not going to have...
If she can't make it on the outside, nobody can make it on the outside.
And
that's very disheartening.
Yes.
Very, very disheartening. Let's just see more of her on the outside, and let's not have her come back to prison.
I agree.
That's lame.
I agree. Also, several of you are wondering if B, even if now at the end of the episode, she seems like she might be willing to hear Allie out because Maxine told her, Maxine always being the voice of reason. She told her, I really don't believe Allie was playing anybody. She was real.
I saw her and she was not.
Yeah, she wasn't kidding.
Wasn't faking it.
So, but now that Allie is back into drugs and we know how B feels about drugs.
Drugs killed her daughter.
Right. Will that turn her off? Linda says that actually she thinks that B will, because she's had this experience with her daughter and she wasn't there to help her and she lost her, that now she will try to help Allie out. She will help her detox. But now she thinks that it will be up to Allie to forgive B, because why would B take Kaz's word over her word?
Allie's, exactly.
Right. So even on that, though, some of you were concerned, why would B take Kaz's word over Allie's word? But as Lauren said, Lauren, first-time writer, but not first-time talker, we love you. It's interesting why B would believe Kaz's word over Allie's regarding Allie's participation in the plot to kill her. I'm sure it had to do with B's untrusting state of mind. Here is someone who finally got under her skin, as Frankie put it, and the first little thing that could undermine the potential vulnerability is believed, so she can close down and put her walls again, go back to not letting anyone in.
To her comfortable space.
And Lori...
aloneness.
And Lori goes even one step further, and she says, that she also had a problem believing that, but then she remembered something that she heard, that no matter how illogical, it's easier for humans to believe bad things than good things.
It's sad, isn't it?
And we were actually just having this conversation yesterday because I'm reading this very, very interesting book that's called something like Rewiring Your Brain for Happiness. And it's not at all what it sounds. It's not like a spiritual new age thing. It's actually all about neurology. Mm-hmm. And it's about how evolutionary-wise, we were trained to prioritize, our brain was trained to prioritize threats rather than happy things. So, for example, it is much more important for our survival to know that there is a snake behind the corner rather than somebody really likes our haircut.
So that we can fight or flight.
Or freeze. There's a new one too.
No, well, freeze is bad.
No, freeze is not bad because in certain instances, it's like when you always say, like when there's a mass shooting or something, play dead.
Play dead.
So that they will move on. And
if someone is drowning, you pretend you're dead before you're drowned. Come on, if someone's strangling you,
so they can just stop.
Stop.
And, yeah.
But also, oh, it's gone. I actually had a thought, and it's
About evolution and why it's made us prioritize
oh,
things.
Hillary.
Yes.
This is why everybody believes every terrible thing that
Right, because it negates all the great things that she's done.
They would rather, and it's easier for them to believe these things than it is for them to logic out, look what she's actually done. These other things are all bullshit.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to believe something bad than it is something good.
It's
about
true.
someone.
And think about it. When somebody, like if you, let's say you wrote a poem and 10 people say, oh my God, it's an amazing poem. And then one person said, oh, it sucks.
It's a piece of crap.
What are you gonna take away from that experience?
You're gonna go
the
and
one
stew
person.
about what a piece of crap it is.
Yeah, so it actually is very believable that being her vulnerability, we just think the whole world is a conspiracy against her. Jane, who decided to cut it short this time so that everything's relative, so that we would have more time for the Bridget Challenge. Thank you, Jane, because we will need time for the Bridget Challenge because you all send fabulous stories. Jane says that she thinks that now that Bridget seems to be back on deck and across things, I'm predicting that she's going to save the day when it comes to the rest of the series, and maybe the writers have been saving her as their secret weapon for the final episodes. What do you think? We can only hope, right?
Yes.
Because that would be fantastic. And can someone please give me more Bridget? It's seriously killing me, so much so that I've devoted way too much time this week trying to work out if Bridget and Frankie have matching Frigid Forever love rings. See my separate email on that one. All right, so here's what happened this week. Several of you, namely Anne, Monique, and Jane, have started on an investigation. And Jane, being the lawyer that she is, she collected all of the evidence. She actually sent me many, many screenshots of whether or not Bridget and Frankie have the same rings and what that means, potentially.
Jane, you need to spend more time talking to grown-ups.
I think Jane is missing her work, but let me tell you, I would hire Jane. This is
in a heartbeat.
She puts together an excellent case, and she's a really good investigator. So here's what she came up with, okay? We can say definitively that both Frankie and Bridget appear to have acquired new rings during the season, the exact date of which we cannot say, but Bridget's presentation suggests sometime between episodes 4 and 5. The episode 7 ring where Bridget has her hand resting over the chair is the clearest shot, and the one that most looks the same as Frankie's. If we were using the standard of proof of beyond reasonable doubt, then I would say we haven't established that they are matching, but this isn't a criminal matter, and that standard of proof is too high.
This is a civil matter.
If we're using the standard of proof of balance of probabilities, then I'd say probably they are matching. But again, it is a bit sketchy as to whether we have the exact match. If they aren't an exact match, then they are very similar.
They don't have to be matching to be meaningful.
That is true too. If I had to say one way or the other, I'd say matching Frigid Forever love rings, or as we like to call them, FFLRs. But I hardly come from an unbiased point of view because I want them to match. Having said that, I would certainly have a go at convincing a judge they were matching. I don't think it matters that they wear them on different rings, different fingers, because Bridget would unlikely wear them to work on her ring finger. I also don't think that they are engagement rings or anything like that. We'll just ignore the embarrassing fact that Australia still hasn't approved same-sex marriage, more to the point.
Mm-hmm.
And if they aren't Frigid Forever love rings, then I'm saying that Bridget bought it for Frankie. I
would think so.
I challenge you to cross-examine or to
challenge
Jane.
Yes.
Okay.
Presentation. By the way, I just have to say that Michael did a very good job of letting us see Bridget be Bridget a lot in this episode.
Yes, in the 2 episodes.
Yes,
actually.
A lot of counseling, a lot of her figuring things out, helping people go through things in their mind, doing a little investigative research in her own dear way. It was wonderful to actually see Bridget being Bridget.
You know, if we're already talking, you mentioned Michael, and I wanted to, again, first of all, the director for this episode, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, is Steve Jodrell. Kathy Chambers, again, on cinematography. And again, the shots that they use,
oh, they're so art film. They're so great.
When they have Allie in the yard all by herself.
That scene with everybody disappearing.
And her right there in the corner. Those huge shots that make people seem so tiny.
Small.
Just so beautiful.
And so alone. So totally alone. She had nobody.
No, and that pretty much makes you understand why she went to drugs. And by the way, that final shot with her taking drugs, where? In the equipment room.
The equipment room, the kitchen equipment room. Oh.
So, again, her by herself.
That hurt my heart.
Yeah, it hurt everybody's hearts.
I feel so sorry for Allie, because really she's done nothing wrong. She's been a good friend. She loves Bea. She's been good to her. She's done nothing wrong.
She's a really good person. One of the very few people in there who
is
just a good
person. And she's smart and she's strong.
She's soulful.
And it's soulful and she's kind and she's funny, and it's just not fair.
Well,
Life isn't fair.
I know you're all hurting for Bally. We can only hope, and I know the preview shows are messed up. Who messed her
Bea
up?
and Allie.
Why is she hurt? And she's so drugged out of her ass. And and she tells Bea that she loves her, and Bea says, well, that's a shame. I know it's so painful. I can only hope that we will get something much better later, that they will get back together, that there will be more Bally scenes. I know you're all Bally, and then, please don't go and kill another lesbian.
Oh, no, that's something else. I also have to just put a little note in here again about the music, which is also fantastic. That percussive music when she was going to see Shane was really great. It was like, it was foreboding, yet it was exciting. It was mysterious. It was,
and they use percussions a lot, and it goes back even. There's something that really has etched itself in my mind, because in a very different kind of a scene from season 3, when Bridget and Frankie are in the library and Vera catches them, and you see Bridget say, fuck, and then when she turns around and walks towards, to go see Vera and go, be punished or whatever, they have this, again, percussive music that is just so perfect, and I know it has nothing to do with anything, but it just really etched itself in my mind, because when they just use music to the best,
absolutely,
it's just so good. It just, everything on this show is
it's like another character. It really is.
Yeah. Okay, so another good point that Jane is making is that she says that she's already she's like a Pavlovian dog, and she's already been conditioned when the "you don't know me" starts and her heart starts racing and stuff, and she says, where do I send...
Who is this?
Jane. She says, where do I send my therapy bills? Hello, Jane, this is what Talking Teal is about. This is the group sessions that Bridget isn't doing anymore.
We are
This is what we're doing.
Tell us how you feel. Oh, you do.
So, Jane says, because several of you, you're split on this. Is Bea still in danger? Or we got her danger, she's out of danger, she almost died, now she's okay. Jane says, on the one hand, I think that having Bea die would be too predictable for the writers, but on the other hand, maybe not, particularly in circumstances where she has nearly died, and we could now quite possibly be lulled into a false sense of security that nothing bad is going to happen to her again. She has a very criminal mind, Jane, and I think that our writers do too.
Yes, you do, Jane. You might have to be your own legal counsel someday.
I hope not. Okay, we are all very, very upset with Vera. We are all very upset with Vera. Why does she... Oh.
Vera, you're thinking like a man.
No, she's thinking like an idiot girl. And
she's thinking with her
I don't
with
know
her genitalia.
I don't know that that's what she's thinking with. And actually, Jane put it best, even though a lot of you said it, but Jane put it just the right way. Why don't you go and have some therapy sessions with Bridget so you can get to the bottom of you never feeling good enough, that inferiority complex. Huh?
They'd even be free.
Yes, it would be. Which we all know isn't your fault, and we all feel sorry for you, and we all want you to see you succeed. But it leads you to make some shit decisions, and it makes you so vulnerable to being used by others, or malleable, as Joan calls it. Jake just has to smile at you or say one nice thing, get your affirmation band out again, anything. But oh my God, don't have sex with Jake, please. And then also, not here. Thank goodness you didn't say not yet. That's not your line,
because I always say.
Every time anybody says not here, we say.
I usually go, not now, and Liron goes, not yet.
and then if Miri says, I can live with that,
I can't. Doesn't matter where we are and what we're referring to.
What the situation is.
Liron goes, Or she says I can live with it, and I go, I can't. It's terrible. We are like Pavlov's dogs.
We are. So how is Boomer? How are Boomer and Maxine going to do this whole artificial conception thing? And several of you remembered, which we didn't, that last year Frankie tried to appeal for Boomer and get her sentence reduced.
She was working on her appeal.
They kind of dropped that. I don't know where it went, if it went anywhere. But so now you're some of you are thinking maybe she'll get her sentence reduced and get out, and then they'll do it. Or maybe they'll have to somehow smuggle it in.
Yeah, how are they going to manage
Which will
this?
be fun to watch.
Yes.
By the way, your favorite thing, I didn't know Boomer and Maxine also have a squish name, Vaccine.
You know what that sounds like? It sounds like something to put on my poison ivy. Can I have some vaccine, please, for my poison ivy?
So, last thing from Jane. Okay. She's saying that there are too many storylines right now and that she doesn't know how they're going to manage to get them all to a resolution in 3 episodes.
And they're important storylines.
Yes, and
it's
she's
not
just
like things that we can just sort of leave hanging unless that's what they want to do.
Just listing them a little bit. Bally and B and Allie on the inside, Maxine's treatment and hopefully recovery, Maxine using her sperm to have a baby with Boomer, Kaz's, that's Kaz's backstory. I don't think we need to see any more of that. Sonia's backstory and upcoming trial, Liz and the consequences of lagging, Frigid and Frankie on the outside, Bridget's backstory, if they ever bring back the 3 questions with Ferguson, and what's going to happen with Ferguson's trial, Vera being taken advantage by Jake.
Are they going to find out that Joan is the one who tried to kill B?
There are so many things right now. I don't know how they're going to do them, how they're going to resolve everything in 3 episodes, but as
Will's
as
videotape.
Many of you, right? Well, that I think will come back later to haunt him. But now with Jake, I don't know what Jake is going to do with that. So, as many of you already kind of concluded, this will probably be a 4 and 5. This will probably be a 2-season arc. We're not going to get...
For many of these things.
Yes, we're not going to get answers by the end of the season. We're probably going to end up with a cliffhanger.
I'd like to see more of Miss Miles. Well, we're talking about having too much
of
some things.
I don't
think there's enough of Miss Miles.
And we don't have a backstory for Miss Miles.
No.
She seems like such an interesting character, and I want to know what the hell is her deal.
What makes her tick besides just being greedy?
Because,
doing anything for money.
We've seen in the whole, generally in the 4th season, we've seen Vera on the outside, we've seen Will, a lot of Will's life, we've seen Fletcher on the outside. I don't need to see Jake. But we haven't seen Linda, and she's been there for 4 seasons.
Yeah. Well, also, she's in the end credits with the poor
She shouldn't
Bridget,
be, because,
and Prisoner doesn't
one.
even have a number 1, just Prisoner.
Just Prisoner. Now that Vera has been promoted to governor, and Will has been promoted to Vera, I think Linda needs to be promoted to Will.
Oh, okay.
So I think obviously she's been doing a lot this season.
Instead of promoting Linda to Will, they brought in Jake.
Which I
resent that on Linda's behalf. But then on the other hand, Linda's not trustworthy.
But I love Linda. She's so fabulous. Anastasia, who said she decided to write us instead of having her head explode, which again, this is what we're here for.
We like that.
Yes.
We help you decompress.
I love that Anastasia calls Allie Alley Cat. Because at the beginning I speculated that maybe Allie comes from being an ally to B, but I like Alley Cat because she is kind of an alley cat, isn't she?
Yeah,
I like her. She's because she's kind of she's a, not to repeat a bad word, but she's a junkie street whore.
Yes, that doesn't anything too bad about her. She's a junkie street whore. I think an alley cat is a much nicer way to say
B.
junkie street whore.
I'm quoting B. That's not my opinion of her, but she does look like something sweet that you would, kind of let in from the street and take good care of, and she would blossom. Like we all love our alley cats, and just saying. So Anastasia, and later on, Anne also tweeted me that pointed us in the direction of a new interview with Danielle Cormack, where she says that by the end of the season, B is the tragic hero. And you started worrying, is Allie going to die? Is B going to die? I think B has been the tragic hero for quite a while
For a long time. Ever since she became top dog.
Well, and ever since Debbie was killed, and then she went out to,
right.
Yeah. I think that being a tragic hero is not so much necessarily about the end game. It's about the character and who
and
she
the
is
arc
in the
of her
world.
life.
Yes.
And the arc of her life is she's our heroine. She's our central character before Joan came along.
Yeah.
And she's had more tragedy in her life than anything.
Yeah. Despite her,
Tragedy
all of her
tragedy
potential
after
and her
tragedy.
intelligence and her heart, and so I don't know if she was alluding to a certain kind of an ending, but I think that regardless, we've established that she's a tragic
heroine.
Yeah. So Anne always finishes her emails with trying to figure out who's going to die this season. And she thinks now, she's changed her tune, she thinks that Foxtel knows that we're smart viewers and that we're expecting somebody to die, and that the surprise is going to be that nobody's going to die.
That would be wonderful. That would actually make me happy, unless, of course, it's Joan.
If she dies, you'll be happier. Okay.
I will be. Although I will miss Pamela Ray desperately. She is such a genius, but she's doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Well, I think and
I hate the character to the core of her being.
I think there was a little leakage somewhere that kind of made us believe that that Pamela Ray is coming back for season 5.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
There was a little leakage.
That was a little leakage. Okay, Eva says that that Kaz starts to resemble the Freak. With how she's manipulating human emotions.
But
however,
she's not smart enough.
And she is manipulatable herself as opposed
to Joan is not, you can't manipulate Joan. You can beat her at her own game, but you can't manipulate her.
Now,
and Kaz is really not that intelligent.
Well, but the emotional manipulability thing, I'm going to skip to Lori's email because she had something very interesting to say.
Yes.
She says that actually it is exactly how someone who was sexually abused and psychologically tortured by the two people she should have trusted should have been able. Blah, 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 blah. She should.
Would you like me to read this? I have been reading
by the two
longer
people
than you
she
have.
should trust most. While it does make you distrustful, it also makes you desperate to be loved and accepted. So therefore, sometimes it's easy to fall for things you want to hear. Lori says that she found it painfully real because she knows where it comes from, and it makes total sense.
Of course, about her parents.
Yes, of course.
Should have been protecting her.
It makes total sense to me that the trauma that she endured and the emotional roller coasters that she had as a child with not being able to put her trust in her parents and being so betrayed by that.
Lori, it's a very, very good point. It makes Kaz much more understandable when you remember where she's coming from.
And again, I keep having to remind myself that Kaz is a vigilante, and her motives.
I thought you were going to say she's a vegetarian. I was going to say, well, what does that have to do with it?
She's not a vegetarian. I don't even think she's a vegetarian.
Right?
Though we don't know about that. I don't know how with her deep hatred of men how she could be straight, but she is a vigilante, and her drive is not to hurt people. Her drive is to protect people. It means hurting people for the cause,
to pay back, to render payback to those who have been hurt.
But really, it's all about, even B at the end when she does get Cass to talk and tell her what Ferguson did. How does she get her to talk? She said, you want to show that you want to protect the women. It's all about protecting the women. It's always all about that. So, Cass's motives in her own mind are pure. And so she's not a bad person. She just maybe does bad things, but in her mind she does them for the right reasons. And it's because of what she's endured.
She's got a hair trigger temper.
Yep.
And she and you can show her one thing in this hand, and 1 second later show her another thing, and she immediately shifts over to the other point of view.
But again, I have to say, Tammy McIntosh, brilliant.
Yeah, she sells
brilliant
it.
Job.
She completely sells
Fantastic. She looks so authentic and genuine.
She's a wonderful
and
actress.
So that's why you can't hate her all the way. You can't love her all the way.
No, I don't hate Kaz.
No, some people do now that she's messed with Bally.
I don't hate her, and I don't hate her because she's messed with Bally.
Heather says that the reason that she's angry with Kaz is that she thinks she's right, that Ali said that she did it intentionally to fuck her up. Kaz doesn't want the girls to get better if it means leaving her. Mm-hmm. It's the only way she's relevant. If she loses her crew, what does she have left? Just the anger. So, yes, she did it to hurt B, but also because she was so betrayed by Ali.
Who she had
and really, there's no reason to...
The scruff of her neck.
And there was really no reason to be betrayed by her because Ali fell in love with B. It's not like she intentionally did anything wrong. She fell in love with her, and it's something that Kaz should be able to relate to since she was her idol as well. But I think Heather is right. I think Kaz's crew is her family, and with everything that she's been through with family, this was supposed to be her family. She was in charge of it, and she was going to make it right. And then to feel that her number one person left her for B is.
The scene between Kaz and Ali was also very.
Ali beating her up. That was so.
Was and then very powerful,
and then Kaz holding her, trying to hug her, and
and again you wonder what is it she feels for her, and I really think that particular scene was more motherly.
Yeah, I don't think she's in love with her. And I think if she had been in love with her, they've already had many chances to fulfill that.
No, I think that it's protectiveness and maternal.
Yeah. And she needs to be needed.
It was a very wonderful scene.
Yeah. Denise reminds us of a preview that we've, of course, already forgotten about. The preview before the season started, the preview for the season, where we see a car explode.
The car explosion. Which
wow,
could mean anything.
We forgot about that.
Yeah, well, we're so in what's happening that the foreshadowing is sort of gone.
Yeah, so is somebody going to get blown up? Is it going to be? I don't think it's going to be Bridget or Frankie.
I think they're trying to make us feel that, but
or maybe it's just an attempt.
It could just be an attempt,
and nobody was in the car. I don't know.
Someone will know that their lives.
The car
in danger.
Did it seem? Was it only to me that it seemed like the car was in the parking lot of Wentworth, or was it somewhere else?
It didn't seem to me to be in the parking lot.
You had a great idea about who that might be.
Oh yes, the person stalking Frankie. Who is the person stalking Frankie?
Right, we dropped
and
that.
Whoever it is.
Did they think we forgot about it, or did we now believe that it was her father? Because we don't.
No, we don't. It may have been that person. Hopefully,
Frankie wasn't
in the car. But that's who I think it might have been aimed for, might have been meant for, and that's who did it.
We'll see.
And maybe we'll find out who it is
Remember
after that.
Thank
you for reminding me that
you're welcome. I had a note here. Remind Mimi. Because we anticipated that you were going to forget it.
I was going to forget it.
Heather says, did anyone else want to bash Doreen when she walked into B's room? Duh.
But I liked the exchange because I said B laid her out right and proper.
Fuck off. That's what we all wanted to say.
She said exactly what we wanted to hear her say to Doreen finally, and Doreen heard it.
Yes, Doreen heard it, so then she went and told her previous crew, her former crew, that it was Ali, and now let's get Ali and bash her. Mm-hmm. Doreen, just back off. You've done plenty for this season. Okay, lastly, Lori just says that the reunion between Frankie and B really brought back the idea of what we were talking about earlier about how in women's prison women create their families. Mm-hmm. And so even though, yes, we get angry, we yell, again, who would have thought at the beginning of all of this season 1 that B and Frankie are going to end up being the closest allies and family to each other to bring them back.
When they practically killed each other in the beginning. But they were the biggest rivals
This is Wentworth, again, that they're able to do so much.
Well, they had
and
the
take
progression, so we saw where they ended up.
And that Bridget is so smart to come up with that. When she asks B, is there somebody on the outside that I can call for you? And of course, B has nobody. But she actually does have somebody. Bridget, the smart cookie that Bridget is, she knew who she needed to talk to. She had some connections she could pull.
Yeah, she knew how to get in touch with her.
Okay, so that was episode 9. And I think episode 10 is going to be very eventful.
Very eventful.
But for now, what we have to do is we have to do your Bridget backstories. I got 14 stories.
Wow.
And then we have our stories.
I just want to show you.
Yeah.
This is, I'm going to have to cut it down. I wasn't even going to really participate.
Yeah.
But I did. I just started writing. I didn't plan it ahead.
Well, see, got all of you very creative, and some of you came up with the most amazing stories. We will not be able to read them all out as you send them to us, but we encourage you, if you want to share them with everybody, please put them in the comments for this vlog. And if you're just a viewer and you're interested in knowing the stories, then look at the comments. Maybe there's a story or two, or 14.
I'm thinking of putting mine in.
Okay. And if you are a fanfic writer, because I know Jane, for example, sent us a 4-page, like a whole scenario thing that I couldn't read out. If you're a fanfic writer and you want in general to just share your link with us so that people can go and look at your fanfic, please do that in the comments section as well. And you know what I loved about, especially about the Bridget stories, is everybody seems to have brought things from their own world of experiences, of references. Nina, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Mine has nothing to do with me.
Well, it might not have anything to do with you, but it might have something to do with... See, this is why I think that a cult show is so appealing to people, because it leaves so many gaps in it for us to pour our desires, our fantasies, our passions, our fears into, and we get to fill the gaps in with things that are not from our lives, but maybe could have been, maybe we wanted them to. So it's just interesting to see how, you know, we each brought our own into this, and including me. I mean, I'm like, oh, geez, you're so predictable, you know, and you'll say the same thing when you hear mine. So
I don't think you're going to find that mine is predictable. My first idea was excessively predictable when I spoke out loud to you.
Well, I was talking to a couple of my friends, and they started to try to tease me, I guess, to do a fairy tale. Once upon a time, there was a princess named Bridget, and each of them started doing a line. And I said, this is what you need to do, girls. You need to each do a line and see how they all coalesce into one story, and especially do it as a fairy tale. I love the fairy tale idea, and they didn't follow through on that. So you can also do that in the comments section if you feel like it. And if you haven't sent an email and this inspires you, again, write it in the comment section.
Mine is realistic, but it's...
So let's start with them, and then we'll end with ours.
All right.
Okay. Anne Laura's story. She believes that Bridget grew up in an upper-class family that had money and her parents had strong principles, but she didn't feel close to their principles. She felt that she was really independent, and she emancipated early. And she had for some time she tried to conform and thus date men, but really that she couldn't, and that broke off the relationship with her parents. And she actually became close to her grandmother, or maybe an aunt, like kind of one of those figures. She's kind, and she puts others' well-being before her own. We know that. She doesn't think she has many friends, but she's loyal to the few that she has. And she's always known about her sexuality, but she explored it. And she probably went through some hard things in her life, which makes her such a good listener to other people's struggles. Kate, first-time writer, and a very big Libby fan, I think.
Who isn't?
That there were some hints that she was raped, naturally, so that led her possibly to the criminal psychology area field of expertise. Being gay caused her issues with her parents when she came out, so that's why she experimented with men in her 20s. I think a lot of us went there because it makes sense. That she had a long relationship in the past, and she got her heart broken, and she decided to remain single until Frankie came along. And if I may point out, in all of your stories, Frankie is the be-all and end-all. She's the soulmate. She's the happily ever after. Not surprised, I guess.
Not surprised.
Camille says that Bridget has seen a lot of pain in her life inflicted on loved ones, and that she, not physical pain, but emotional pain, and that she wanted to be the caretaker because when she needed it, nobody cared for her. And she just fell in love with Frankie and followed her heart. She's not necessarily, she wasn't necessarily a lesbian, but she fell in love with Frankie. Though she did confirm to us that she was a lesbian. Now can we move on?
Can we move on?
Yes. Okay, Nina says that Westfall is actually a German name. It's the origins of the name are in Germany.
Read it. What does she say?
She says its origin in Germany, and it's a noble name. So Bridget, the noble one, likes old lezo music. We know that because in episode 1 of season 4, we heard her music in the background, and she goes to concerts and bars. She likes to dance, and she likes wine, and she likes to have a good time and party. Her parents are divorced. Her dad lives close by, and her mom is now married to P. Sherman on 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney. And she said that I will get a lollipop if I get the reference. Well, Nini, I have Google. So P. Sherman at 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney is from Finding Nemo.
Oh, sweet. Isn't that adorable? So is it a fish?
Do I get a lollipop? Her parents were both scholars. But Bridget wanted her work to have actual meaning, so she didn't end up doing that, which they expected her to do. And that across, she went to uni and she came across some people who studied law or psychology, or sociology, and she talked and slept to some of them.
Talked to and slept with. As an editor, I must point that out.
She talked and slept with a few of them. That's okay. Nini and I are foreigners. You'll forgive us. And that's how she ended up being a forensic psychologist. She's a surf babe. We know that because we saw a surfboard in the background in episode 2. I never noticed that. And she grew up in the city, and Nini says she thinks it's Melbourne. That's Nina's story, and she's sticking to it. Eva says Bridget was born in a small town, and she was a wild child. She wanted to be somebody great, who was a great conqueror in the world, but she met great harm that made her close herself, and she forgot her dreams, and she chose the hard art of living. She wanted to know the other face of human nature, get to know up close the people who've been hurt, and she wanted to understand why they're like that. So, but then she did live happily ever after once she met Frankie. That's a sad story. I have to read all of Monique. Monique sent 2 versions, and they were so specific that I have to read them out. Version number 1. Bridget Westfall, born March 21st, 1970. Dad, William Westfall, occupation, psychologist. Mom, Patricia Westfall, Nee McCleary, occupation? Nay?
Nay McCleary.
What's Nay?
That means that was her maiden name.
Oh, okay. Professor, Women's Studies in Melbourne. Are you sure she wasn't gay? Childhood ideal, private schools, loving parents, good student. Teenage years, a rebel, runs away, age 16, lives on the streets for a few years, and is taken in by an older woman who helps her cope with things happened to her whilst she was a runaway. Makes peace with her parents, tries to live up to their expectations, i.e. dates men, start a family. This doesn't work out. She moves to Sydney, goes to uni, studies forensic psychology, immerses herself into the LGBT family, is a well-known guest at pride parties and discussion forums for gay rights in the 90s. Graduates and is offered a position as a forensic psychologist in a women's correctional center in Brisbane. Here she has a successful career and is in a relationship with an antique dealer, so with a gay man, in other words.
I love that.
She met at a lesbian networking event. After 10 years, she is promoted to head psychologist of the Western Territory prisons and is an expert witness testifying on behalf of prisoners at their court hearings. Her career takes off as she is often asked to testify at hearings across Australia after publishing a paper on guards and people in charge having psychopathic or sociopathic tendencies towards reoffenders. This catches the eye of the head of the board of directors at Wentworth Prison, who offers her a job as their forensic psychologist, a job she takes after her relationship breaks down after 18 years.
Excellent.
This is version 1. Version 2. Bridget Westfall, born in Melbourne on 19th August 1970, to William Richard Westfall, banker, shareholder, and Patricia Eileen Westfall, née Sinclair, heiress to Sinclair Winery. Only child, spoiled, private education, trust fund baby, bright A student, social formidable skills, happy childhood, hockey, swimming hobbies, loves art abstract, aces high school, summa cum laude, takes a gap year to travel around the world, gets busted for cocaine, spends a couple of months in British jail. Daddy bails her out and makes her rap sheet go away.
Is this Orange is the New Black? Wait.
The rebel she is, she breaks with her family, goes back to Australia to study forensic psychology in Sydney. Uses her trust fund to achieve that. Has awkward relationships with guys. Falls in love with her professor, a lesbian out and open and very active in the women's and lesbian movement of the early 90s. Bridget is very active in the gay community. This relationship ends after Bridget graduates and is offered a position in a women's prison in Brisbane, again, where she is loved and highly acclaimed by staff and prisoners. She sets up programs to reintegrate inmates that are successful. After 10 years, she relocates to another women's correction facility and publishes a paper on sociopathic tendencies of guards to reoffending inmates. Highly acclaimed and internationally published, she is asked to give lectures on forensic sciences at the university in Sydney. She falls in love with a young woman, art lover and wine connoisseur. This relationship lasts 8 years. Bridget decides to make a clean break and relocate back to Victoria and works at a minimum security prison where she successfully implements her programs that help inmates not reoffend. At the yearly Christmas function of the Correctional Services of Victoria, she meets Derek Chenning, who has heard her research papers and offers her a job.
Read her research papers.
Who has read her research papers and offers her a job at Wentworth's resident forensic psychologist. The rest is history.
That is fantastic. I love both of them. They're fantastic. And I have to say, the rest is history is the only thing that mine has in common with any of these.
Well,
not
Monique,
the only thing,
you did an outstanding job.
Bravo, Monique. Bravo, actually, to
Bravo,
all of
everybody.
them.
And
Monique,
Jane, again, I'm so sorry. Jane wrote me a 4-page thing, and I asked her to shrink it down, and she did a phenomenal job. Jane, if you want to post it as a comment, that would be great. Because we know that you all are fanfic lovers, and we'd be happy to read all this stuff. Kelly says Bridget is an only child of a judge and a highly regarded defense attorney. She attended an elite private school and well-regarded university. She knew she was a lesbian since her teenage years, but didn't fulfill her own happiness. Married at 24, divorced after the death of her parents at 29, had a few short-term relationships and one long-term relationship with women since her divorce. After her long-term relationship failed, she used her inheritance to relocate, buy a house, and restart her life near her new job at Wentworth. She also bought a black Porsche, but only uses it for special occasions. Met Frankie Doyle and fell in love fast and furiously. Her relationship with Frankie is both exciting and tiring due to the circumstances, but since she has never been so happy, she will never end it, and she will take the risk.
I love it.
Sarah says that she can see Bridget being quite rebellious and a free spirit. Maybe it was a friend who was the bad seed she couldn't help, so she found the way to make a difference with others. Or maybe her parents were psychologists or lawyers or officers, and they influenced her by example. Bridget, being gay has been a challenging, if not limiting factor, a key factor in her development as a person, professionally and personally. She had many short-term relationships and maybe one long-term relationship. That seems to be a common thread in all of her stories. I think when she met Frankie, she had been single for a while. Frankie is her second chance. And she ends saying, I hope I didn't disappoint Sarah. Come on.
Didn't disappoint, dear. None of them disappoint. They're all wonderful.
Anne says that we all have defining moments in our lives. And Bridget's moment came when her mom suddenly died of cancer, and her father, aged 36, was left alone to raise Bridget and her older brother, Scott. Bridget's dad was a guy's guy. He kept the family ranch going, but had no clue how to take care of a 12-year-old girl. Scott was never of help either. Bridget felt alone and afraid. Fear turned to anger when one day her dad came home drunk with some woman who was passing through town. Years went by, and this became the routine. Her father ignored Bridget and brought home strange women. Bridget took her anger out in school. She started fights, missed classes, and began hanging out with the local bad boy, Dean. One day she went to the beach, and while she was waiting for Dean, she saw this woman, and that woman told her that she was at university and working on her psych paper, and she told her to go back to school and learn to take care of herself and dump that boy. So Bridget thought she was like an angel sent by her mom to deliver her a message. From that point on, she was going to help others through their pain, anger, and sorrow, and that was it. And then she fell before she met Frankie and lived happily ever after. It was another defining moment in her life.
Mm-hmm.
Malin says that Bridget dated men in her 20s, because we know that, and Ferguson asked her about the rape. So she says, I'd hate it if the story turns out right, that she was raped, that Gidget was raped and turned gay, because that is so cliche. One, can be a lesbian without having experienced bad things with
One
men.
can also be raped
and be a lesbian regardless,
exactly.
Right? She sees Bridget as an extremely professional woman, and that's why her feelings for Frankie really put her out of her game. So that's not like something that she would usually do. She says she grew up on a farm, a secluded place anyway. She thinks of her mother as like a Betty White character.
Well, like Betty White, the homemaker on Mary Tyler Moore.
Oh, okay. And her father
funny,
being
by the way,
a good-hearted
handful.
A good-hearted guy like Alan Doyle. She was an only child, or maybe she had one older brother, maybe like a 7 to 10 year older brother. So Jane's shortened version is, and Jane, we will read your full version in real life. We just, I had about 1,400 emails to read this weekend. Bridget enjoys gardening in her small garden. She loves reading and has a big book collection, goes to hot yoga regularly, and has an epic yoga clothing collection. Turned down many offers to work in private practice early on in her career. She preferred to develop programs for use in prisons. Is very well respected in the forensic psychology community. Watched Pacific Drive, which helped her come out and tell her sister that she was in a relationship with a woman, thanks to Libby Tanner.
Very funny. Very brilliant.
Had conservative parents. Her father has now died and her mother had Alzheimer's. She likes Thai food. And she was sexually abused as a child by someone whom her family trusted. Mm-hmm. Denise says that Bridget has a younger brother who is always in trouble in jail. Her dad was a salesman and her mom was a teacher. She decided to go into psychology after an incident when she was a teenager, sent her to therapy. Her uncle's stepson raped Bridget and she never told anyone. The most concerning thing about this secret is how in later years Joan Ferguson would know, since Bridget never told anyone. Bridget knew from a very young age that she was gay. In high school she came out, but because of pressure from her family members, she dated men in her 20s and even became engaged. But then she said, fuck it, decided to live her own life, and her parents, of course, had a difficult time with that, but eventually they did come around. Her brother, on the other hand, has always been a dick, so they really have no relationship. One of Bridget's girlfriends for a short time proved to be a rather scary relationship. Natalie was very toxic and dangerous, and she was controlling and obsessed, and she, even after they broke up, she started stalking Bridget, and she broke into her house once, and Bridget got her arrested, and that's why also Bridget decided to move away, far, far, far away. Heather says that she sees Bridget as a school teacher, and she was sexually abused or raped at one point in her life, and she went into her current profession as a result of that. Interesting. Of course, I could be wrong. She could have been a pole dancer or a bartender who worked her way through college. After watching Desert Hearts, she figured out that she was gay. So
who is this?
That's Heather. Laurie said
Very
that Bridget.
Good, Heather.
Laurie said that Bridget was orphaned as a young girl and raised in the foster system. She was in one of the foster homes she was in. She was sexually abused by the man of the house. So she immersed herself in school as a way to deal with life. Okay, she was debate captain and class president in high school, where she also had her first woman-on-woman experience. She was salutatorian at graduation and also very successful in college. She met a woman who was a bit older and not out, and she fell in love. But because she wasn't out, that kind of ended up ruining the relationship. She felt that after graduation, she felt that she had a deep need to help troubled women better their lives. She dated men for appearances, but she's had several relationships not lasting too long because she's the kind of person who focuses more on her work. And falling for Frankie is the first time it has ever truly happened to her with the client, and of course she found her soulmate.
Okay.
Now, who's going to read hers first, yours or mine?
Oh, I think you should go first, because I'm sure yours is better.
No. Okay, Bridget Westfall was born to very good but cold and withholding parents. She was nevertheless a cheerful child whose bedroom was covered with her favorite female pop star posters. At age 13, however, Bridget's life was changed when she was molested by an older boy at her school. She didn't tell anybody, but the difference in her demeanor after that experience was noticeable. She put on a tough shell around herself and decided she would never be that soft again. And from then on, she was not going to let anyone see her vulnerabilities and take advantage of her. At 15, she bought her first leather jacket. She mostly kept to herself, but she stayed a straight-A student. She was going to make something of herself. When she was 16, Bridget had her first real-life crush, which led to a 3-month love affair with her 35-year-old female English teacher. The relationship ended when her parents found out about it. Bridget threatened suicide if her parents told anyone, and so they didn't. The teacher removed herself from school and moved to another town, and Bridget was sent to therapy. It was there that she decided she wanted to be a psychologist. It was there also that she realized for good that she was a lesbian. However, her parents' strong resistance to the idea had her dating men in her 20s to try to appease them. She was still having relationships with women the whole while. Specializing in forensic psychology was a natural fit for Bridget, who, from a very young age, knew she wanted to empower herself against the evil in the world, and working in the field actually softened her. Being able to nurture and care for women in need, women who were wronged like her and whose lives have been derailed, gave her a sense of purpose and sisterhood that made her feel stronger in her femininity. She had never had a relationship with an inmate before Frankie, but her affinity for forbidden relationships was obviously something that she had always harbored.
Excellent. Now, I'm going to have to skip around a little bit
Yes,
because
give us the gist.
Because I didn't write it small. But I said Bridget Westfall was an only child. Her father was a strict fire and brimstone preacher in a small town in Western Australia. Her mother was very loving but very frail, and her father totally dominated. Her cold, withholding father, of course, totally dominated her mother and emotionally abused her, though not physically. Bridget was very smart. She was very popular. Her teachers all loved her, but her father would not let her do the things that normal kids got to do. She didn't get to play sports. She didn't get to date. She didn't get to socialize much or go to parties. He did let her study ballet because, as he said, grace is a virtue, and she was naturally graceful, and he liked to see the way people watched her beauty as she when they went to church. When she was 13, she had a best friend who her parents approved of. The parents were in the church, and the girl was allowed to sleep over. In time, they realized they had feelings for each other, and they began experimenting. One night, they were a little too enthusiastic, and her father caught her. Told the friend that she could never come back, and told Bridget that if she ever did anything like that, he would throw her out of the house. Bridget was very, very protective towards her mother. They were very close. Ever since she was a little girl, they would play the 3 wishes game, and her mother would say if she could have any 3 wishes, what would they be? And Bridget would make her dreams and aspirations known. And her mother always said, when it was her turn, that she only had 1 wish, that all of Bridget's wishes would come true. That was her favorite game. As time went on in high school, Bridget's mother became more and more withdrawn. She began to drink. She was very, very frail. In high school, she fell in love with her female psychology teacher.
We both had teacher crushes.
Of course, didn't we all? She cared very deeply for Bridget, but she never crossed the line. But she did encourage her interest in the subject. She put Bridget up for a scholarship, and she gave Bridget emotional support. Midway into high school, Bridget received a full financial scholarship to a university in Sydney. Bridget was not going to take it, though, because she was afraid to leave her mother. She was going to stay in town and get a job or go to the local junior college. However, after the day before graduation, Bridget's mother committed suicide to free her. So,
wow, she's dark.
Without a second thought or a look backward, she took the scholarship, which was still open to her, and went to Sydney. She studied psychology. She did a special project volunteering with women in prison. Unfortunately, she fell in love with one of the prisoners, and she had to leave. She quit because she didn't want
a serial offender.
Yeah, she didn't want to cross that line. She had to leave the project behind her so as not to hurt her career or her friend's chance at parole. So she decided she was going to get her master's degree in forensic psychology. And in order to do that, she began working part-time as an exotic dancer.
I knew you were going to say that.
And I set the stage. Isn't that what playwrights and film writers always do? She made a lot of money, and it paid her bills. She had a passionate affair with one of the other dancers at the club.
Well, I want to see that.
But she had her heart broken when her girlfriend married a wealthy male client to get her out of that life. Vowing not to get her heart broken again, she dug into her studies, graduated with honors, and began working in a prison counseling women. When prisons proved to be too tempting with all that low-hanging fruit, she started to work with the Melbourne police, and she fell in love with a female detective. They had a long and happy relationship. She did, by the way, date men.
And still claims that it's her she fell in love with.
Well, maybe she did. We don't want this to be you, because once again, my dark streak. Yes.
Killed.
After for more than a decade, her partner was killed in the line of duty. Bridget left the police force, went to Fiji for 5 years, worked as a bartender and
Jesus.
unofficial counselor
She's
to her
100,
clients in a popular dive bar. She had a few flings, both with surfers and female clients. She grew tired of seafood and drugs, however, and she went back to Australia, took a job at Wentworth Prison for Women. The rest is history. Bridget, by the way, is actually a Gold Star lesbian, even though she dated.
She's one of us.
Men. Yes.
Well, not
And,
you. One of me.
Not
One of mine.
So she as she said, she dated men.
She didn't
but
say that
she
she
didn't
slept
sleep with them. And so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
So you like your Gold Star lesbian, huh?
I do like my Gold Star lesbian.
That's good. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. We have only 3 more episodes to go. So people, if you have been meaning to write, if you've been toying with the idea of writing, write to us. You only get 3 more chances and then the wrap-up party. Anyway, we're excited. Can't wait to see what happens in the next 3 episodes. They're bound to be filled with good stuff because, as we said,
and bad stuff.
We have, yes, which is also good in a way. I just want to say
we loved your stories. They were fantastic.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you, darling. It's not quite here.
Tuesday.
Yes, and we're
anniversary.
going to see.
Oh, The Secret Life
We're
of
going
Pets.
to see The Secret Life of Pets on our
This is what
anniversary.
happens when you have your anniversary on
Martha's
Martha's Vineyard. Well,
Although
we
did
saw
see-
Vanessa Williams last night, so we'll
live,
pretend
and
that
she was wonderful.
Yeah.
So we said that'll be our real anniversary.
Anniversary.
Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.